Welcome, Animigos, to Keyframers Season 2, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPNO.
And together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
So we'll be creating an animation, as always, from scratch live using HTML and CSS today. That's right, no JavaScript. It's a challenge.
Needed. This show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers or hit the like and subscribe buttons all around, and you can find additional links below.
Yeah, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have, so reach out in the chat or in the comments.
How's it going, David? It has been quite a while. Quite a while.
Yes, it has. It's been going pretty well. Not doing as many animations as I'd like, but hopefully we could get back on track with that.
Yeah, it's been about the same for myself. Been a busy break, but I'm excited to get back into it and start animating again. I know we're having some lag on the stream. Sorry about that. We're working on it here, but we'll get that going as best we can. Yeah. All right. Well, shall we just dive in and get to working? So let's take a look at what we got. All right.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So today we've got a nice little checkbox animation, something to ease us back in to the animation fun. Let's see if I can share that link with you guys. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's happening with this, David?
Yeah, sure. So this is a it's sort of a 3-in-1 component sort of thing. So he calls it the checkbox switcher. This is Oleg Frolov, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, created this animation and even created an interactive CodePen prototype, which isn't exactly the same as this animation, but it is pretty close. And so I think what we're going to try to do is make it as exact as possible. And so there's 3 different types of components all smushed into one, which is really cool. First of all, there's the checkbox, your classic gray to green checkbox. There's a switcher, the classic goes from left when it's off and right when it's on. And then there's also the button aspect. So we're creating sort of a Frankenstein of these three traditional form input controls.
The best of all worlds, you might say. That's a nice little animation, and maybe even some room to improve on it as we go. We've just got a fading in checkbox or a check mark there, so maybe there's a little bit more we can do with that. But we'll start with the basics and go from there.
Yeah. So let's dive right into the CodePen.
All right, I'm here with you.
Okay.
It's good seeing your little label back in there in the collab mode.
Yeah.
So just the barest amount of setup so far. Really nothing out of the ordinary.
Well, okay. Let's.
Yeah.
there is stuff out of the ordinary, and that's sort of my signature stuff. There's this box sizing type of thing. So first of all, I have everything box sizing to border box because why not? But also I have this everything position relative, and that's because you either type it once or you type it in multiple places. And I could go for a whole episode explaining why I make this decision. It's might not be the best decision, and sometimes in your existing apps, if you add this, it might break stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions about this, just feel free to hit us up in the chat, and I will gladly explain it and rant to you about why I prefer that.
Yeah, it gets the job done. It's not my personal preference, but hey, it'll add some consistency to what we're doing.
Exactly, that's the key.
As long as you communicate with everyone on your team about this, then you can do it too.
You're sounding like a medicine commercial. Like side effects may include.
Yes, headaches, nausea.
Please talk to your doctor before using position relative on absolutely everything. Yep.
Headaches, nausea, and firing. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we start with here? We got a little input type equals checkbox.
Right. And so one trick that we've been using that we're going to be using in this one too is we could use the checked attribute of this checkbox in order to affect how like something like a div or something looks visually over here. So we could just say, inputs checked plus div, and then we could affect the style of that div based on whether that input is checked or not. But what we could also do is we could make that div a label, and if I could spell label correctly, and that label could be tied to that checkbox. So it doesn't matter if you click the checkbox or the label, both of those are going to be connected so that you could click the label instead. And so that's, it's a popular technique.
Yes.
I think.
And I usually go as far as wrapping the input with the label. And so anywhere you click around this, like if we said, turn on, if you clicked the text next to it, there we go. You click the text or the checkbox,
that works.
Everything's all working. It's lip sync off.
Yeah, so if we look at this, we could sort of get an idea of what exactly. Thinking we'll at least want some sort of other elements in here, and let's just do a div for now. It's best to use semantic HTML, but we can figure that out later.
Yes.
So for example, let's give this a class of good. Okay. And just to check over here. So we could say, or actually let's do that, and then we have just our this is going to get confusing because I want to give this a class of checkbox just to identify it, but this is also, all right, checkbox and checkmark. Oh my god, this is going to get so confusing, but that's okay. So our checkbox, when it's checked, our check mark, let's just let's give our check mark some styling, right? So check mark, and so I'm thinking we want that the rounded borders, and we want it nice and big. So how big do you think we should make it? Let's see. Just give it a height of 2 rem and width of 4 rem, and also we're going to make the body F2, F2, F2. So this one's going to be, what's checker? Oh, God.
Yeah, there's a
background white. We have the most creative class names ever over here. Yes. Okay, so 2 rems and 4 rems is pretty pretty small. Let's just do vmin 40 vmin. Oh god, now it's too big. Whoa. Of course, this is just experimentation. I think, no, that's good. Yeah, it's probably good. Border radius, like 5 vmin. Nope, too much. 2 vmin. Good enough. Maybe 3.
See, this is...
And we also want a box shadow on this too. So box...
See, I was gonna have this be what you're doing here as like the checker class, and then the actual check mark would be that div, and move it back and forth within the label. If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. It will. Here we go. Just how much it's spread, nice. I guess. Yeah, that's the spread. So we don't really want that. Keep that 0. Again, of course, we could do that even more like that. It could really come from the bottom.
Well, we're probably going to want that box shadow as a separate element. That'll probably end up being a pseudo element.
Yeah, you're right.
The pressed
so
state.
Here's how we could do that. We could add a before, and then we could do 100% with 100%, and we could move that box shadow right down there. So now it should be. Hopefully that. Whoa.
Yeah, just a moment. That's...
You are.
There you go.
Invading. Okay, you're invading the viewport units and using M's instead. That's fine, I guess.
That's what we do.
We'll take it offline.
Yes.
See me after class.
Will do. Hey, what's that?
All right, so now we have our background. We have our everything set up over here. Let's actually add the check mark type of thing. So I'm guessing, should that be a set? Yeah, that has to be a separate element. So we have checker, checkbox, check mark, and I just got a random error from CodePen. So
yeah,
that's
I'm getting that too.
Not good.
Hopefully we're not.
Did you get the same error?
Yeah, we might be getting that DDoS again.
Oh no.
Yeah, type something. Let me make sure we're still. Yeah, we're still synced up.
Here?
I think it's just the saving that's doing it.
All right, so I'm typing stuff. Stuff still works, right? Can you see this?
Yes. I'm still seeing what you're typing.
So still getting the error. This website's under heavy load. Queue full. Oh man, this just got pretty exciting. I don't know if you got the same error, but I got the same error.
Yeah. So far I'm okay. It's just that that message.
Gotcha.
Let me see if I can do anything over here. Keep going.
All right. So first of all, we got a couple questions in the chat. Is there any reason that you should use vmin as opposed to rems or ems for the font size? That's a good question. You want to take that, Shaw?
Yeah. So the main purpose of using the vmin and all that in this instance is just so that it's nice and scalable for just previewing this one element. In terms of if you'd want to use that on an actual input element, probably not. Just depends on exactly what your setup is. I always lean towards using ems because you can set the font size in one specific spot and then everything will update for that particular element. That's one of the beautiful parts of the cascade in CSS, and font size really works well with that in my experience. David differs there. But.
I differ because there's a lot of foot gunny sort of stuff with ems. Specifically, let's say you have like one and you define the font size to be different somewhere else, like 2Ms, then it just has this multiplicative effect where your font sizes are now unpredictable. And so I like basing it on the root font size. Always use rems because, yeah, you're basing it on one single font size.
Right. I basically use, I try to use rem at the base. So, if you're thinking in BEM, block element modifier, syntax, at your block, you would set the font size based on the rem so that it is locked into a specific size, and then the elements within that are based on M so that they scale properly.
Yeah, but it's really easy to get wrong, though.
It can be.
And I'll tell you why. Well, because let's say that you have a block of contents which you define, let's make this 1.2 Ms, and then you have a button inside where you want the font size to be 0.7 Ms. The actual size is not 0.7 Ms. It's whatever your base font size is times 1.2 times 0.7. I'm not really good with math, so I'm not sure what that amounts to, but I know for a fact it's not 0.7. And so it gets really, really confusing. But if you use 0.7 rems, then you have a predictable size, no matter what.
Yes. Yeah.
So use rems.
I get it. But, do whatever works for you. If position relative works for you, then go for it.
It does work for me. It's my secret sauce. Also, I'm getting an error 502.
Did you refresh the page or something? Yeah. Right. It's still.
Yeah, I totally refreshed and.
Yeah.
So this is not an April Fool's joke. CodePen has been under DDoS for a couple days now, actually.
Since about last Wednesday,
So.
actually. It has been a miserable experience. For those of you that don't know, I work at CodePen, and we've been just doing whatever we can to fight off these, and mostly had it under control, but the attacks continue. So that's super fun. Well, I've got the editor up, so I'll continue working. David, if you want to talk theory, I don't know. I'll get
sure. I'll just be really passive aggressive about font sizes in the chat.
Yes, please do. We don't have to.
So the basic idea is this: our check switch box button thing has two states. It has either off or on, and so those states could be represented by the checked and the not checked. And so that's how we're going to think about this animation. And so basically, we're just going to be coding both of the states, the off state and the on state, and we're going to transition between the two. So by thinking about it in those, just those two states, it becomes a pretty straightforward animation to make. Maybe one of the tricky things would be something that wasn't seen in the original CodePen prototype was the bounciness of it, and so that's something that I would like to see in this one, if I could ever get back to it, which I cannot because this website's under heavy load.
It sure is. It sure is. Well, I'm just doing some basic setup here, getting the little block.
And just for reference, so if Shaw was using rems over here, it would look exactly the same.
Yeah, the end result is very much the same. It's just a couple different ways of getting there. That's one of the beauties of CSS.
There's a right way and a wrong way.
Exactly. Let's see here. So got a nice little check mark. See, what I like about using M's, look at this. Just changing one value and the whole thing updates. Boom. But still can't see.
Yeah, but you could do that with rems too.
All
right. So you're talking about within checker. So
right.
Yeah, that's a feature or a bug, depending on who you ask. Well, all right, it's not a bug. It's just a. All right, so why are you using padding box for box sizing?
Yeah, I meant to do that. So this is just to make the check mark 1em and having the padding around it. That's all. And then this is actually a bit wider than 2em. Like that. There we go. Let me get that exact little color we want for the green. It'll be the checked state, and we can do that really quick to show the. This will be background gray. We'll do AAA, and then check mark background. Yeah, so when this is checked, the color will change. Boom, easy enough. So let's see.
Yeah, so now we just have to make it go back and forth.
Yeah, which is not a problem. Let me get that exact gray while I'm at it. And then.
So what do you use for a color picker?
This is a little app called Color Slurp, a little Mac OS app. Just gives you like the little eyedrop tool anywhere you want it. All right, so if we wanted to slide it, we could just say transform, translate, 150%. And that'll do it. This could also be 1.5em because we're using our ems, and we know how big the parent is, and that this could be done in a lot of different ways. But
yeah, so there are times where you won't know how big the parent is, and so that's when you would probably, if you do want to remain performance. And not animate something like left or anything like that, and stick with transform animations and transitions, then you would probably want to use something like the flip technique, which we're not going to go over here, but that would be just like measuring how far it actually goes on that unknown width of the parents, and yeah.
Right, and I'm gonna.
But over here, we actually know what the parent size is, so.
Right. That's not the best. A little cubic easing there, but it's pretty close. There we go.
Oh, am I back?
Maybe. Yeah. I see a red cursor. I think.
Cool.
We might be back.
Now I could fix all your font sizes. All right.
Yeah. Let me toggle this over to be.
Or I might not have the most recent version because. Oh wait, no, I do get it to slide back and forth. Cool. So you're using a cubic-bezier to do that with some really, really random numbers.
Yeah. So this is another little tip. Cubic-bezier.com. That'll give you some little drag handles you can use. Here's the easing I'm using for this particular instance, and it works okay. It can probably be played with some more to get it to be a little more lifelike.
Yeah, and so by the way, so when you use a tool like this, you'll get random numbers like 0.41, 0.01, 0.32, 1.51, like just random numbers like that. Try to simplify that, because I promise you, and this is something that we're going to emphasize in these shows, that cubic-bezier is not this magical thing where you just throw random numbers at it and hope that it gets the correct easing that you want. Rather, it's something that make sense when you look at each of the numbers and you're able to visualize them. And I think removing the complexity of many decimal places really helps understand that. So for example, I changed that cubic Bezier to 0.4, 0, 0.3, 1.5, and looks fine. So 0.40, that's your x and y. And so you could just imagine that as a line, like the first handle laying flat on the bottom. And then 0.3, 1.5, you could just imagine that as the handle laying not flat on top, but bent upwards. And because it's bent upwards, it's going to make that little bounce effect. Now, the reason it's not lifelike is because we're using one cubic Bezier. And so that cubic Bezier doesn't have a smooth landing, I like to call it. Like, you know how you're like if you were in an airplane, you like to have that smooth landing. You don't want to like hit the ground hard. Yeah, I hate it when airplanes do that because I know pilots have full control. And pilots could say, we're going to make this a hard landing or an easy landing. Same thing with cubic Beziers. So, but unfortunately, our cubic Beziers aren't quintic Beziers, so we can't exactly modify like another third point in the middle and be like, yeah, make this go nice and smooth to the end. So, yeah, we could think through how we want to smooth that out later.
Yes.
So which part are you working on right now?
So I just implemented a simple checkbox or a simple actual check mark with SVG. This is it right here. So I've given it a view box of 0, 0, 100, 100. That basically means it's a square of 100 units from 0 to 100, both on the width and the height. Then I've got a path in there. The D attribute of a path is all the little points that you want to draw along your path. M just means move to this specific point. So X and Y. So 20 units over, 55 units down. And then L is a line. And so it draws a line from that initial point of 20, 55 to 40, 75, and then another line because that was the last command. It's just repeating that. Or you could just say L again, all the way over to 80 and up to 25. And those are just all the absolute units in there. And yes, I don't want to forget the corner rounding, but I'm forgetting the name for that. So I'm going to look it up here. SVG stroke line join. That's what it is.
It's something to do with cuts. Yeah. All right. Just kidding.
That is a different command, but a very important one. Yes. Stroke line join equals round. And yeah, there we go. All right. So that's a pretty good little check mark, right? I think so.
Yeah.
And we'll want to set that. Let's see, check mark. We'll do just SVG here, set it opacity 0, transition opacity 0.4 seconds, linear, just for now. And then check mark checked, SVG.
Are you typing, by the way?
Yes, I can see your typing.
Okay, cool.
The refreshing is slow. Yeah, there we go.
So what I'm doing is, and I don't know why I'm indented for no reason. Let's tidy up that CSS. Hopefully that doesn't break anything. Actually, I didn't do anything. Oh wait, yeah, I did. Okay, so I'm adding a check-BG element over here, and that's because right now we have the background on the actual checker elements, and that's going to do us no good when we want to actually animate the shadow. And so what we could do is move that whole background type of thing to an actual element. So let's do that real quick.
Yeah.
So I could grab this before and I could move that down here.
Yep.
Hopefully it
And
doesn't look weird.
yeah, don't forget border radius here.
And so here, let's just make sure that that's the right one. I don't know, I'm not seeing a live update.
Yeah, it's just slow because of the attack.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, this is I think this is our first episode where we're coding in the trenches. We're coding while being attacked, which is fun.
Yes, yes it is.
Yeah, who would want to attack CodePen? No.
Jerks.
Anyway.
Jerks.
Yeah. CheckBG. So we could say for the CheckBG that we wanted to, when it's checked, transform, translate wide, like 10% or something like that. And then I imagine it does do that. This is sort of like one of those code in the dark things. Transition, transform. What's our timing that we have? 0.4 seconds. So I'm going to add some CSS variables just for those timings. Duration 0.4 seconds, and then so we could have this there duration, cubic-bezier, that's fine, that could stay there. And then this opacity, we could also do fair duration. And so these are an alternative to Sass variables, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
But no, I'm not getting the updated. Ah, man. Okay, well, it is moving, but it doesn't look very good. And that's that's because number one, I don't have the transition set on the actual before element. And number two, the box shadow is sort of blocking that. So thinking through this, because what we want to do is we don't want to change the actual box shadow because that's not really performant. That's going to cause a lot of repaint. So instead, here's what we could do. We could transform, scale this down. Bear with me. This is pretty experimental. And just make this a big shadow. Oh, I forgot you're using M's, but whatever. 4, 6. I have to reload every single time I do this.
I did change it to not automatically rerunning, so that might be part of the problem. Do you have a run button?
I do not know.
All right.
So, interesting.
Let me pull that back up.
Actually, all right, let's not do the scale thing. Let's yeah, let's do a different idea. So, all right, so when it's checked, instead we could just scale.
Oh,
let's try that.
Let's see. What? So the BG is just the shadow. Is that all you're doing for, or is it the white background too?
So it's going to be the white background too.
Okay.
And that's because the shadow has to hide behind something.
Yes.
So.
All right.
Let's that didn't give me the effect I want either, but we're close. So it means that in the transform origin bottom, well, bottom center technically. And so that's going to stretch out. Basically, I want that shadow to stretch out, and I want it to stretch out from the bottom. It's not exactly to. Oh, that's because we're doing the scale on the actual element instead of the Yeah, so transform scale 1. And so over here, yeah, that's going to be B and before, or before, yeah. There we go. Cool. So that should work.
Yes.
If it doesn't, is it working?
Yeah. I'm
just going to defer to you because I can't see the. I mean, it's sort of working. It's just not a.
Yeah, that's not exactly the way. Let's see let's do transform scale 1 just to force some stacking context there.
Well, stacking context is forced for everything.
Yeah.
Because of my perspective.
Right. I'm trying to figure out why the before is going over it, even though it's z index -1. It's something I always seem to run into. I can't ever remember the proper solution for. A question in the chat. For small examples like this, is there any performance difference between using 3D transforms? Not significantly. It shouldn't be anything noticeable.
And so we've done previous episodes where, we've done previous episodes where we did use those 3D transforms.
All right. Quick fix.
All right, I got an idea.
Quick fix for this. We're just gonna do before and after, and then after is gonna be our shadow. So
wait, what are you doing?
So that we can have.
I actually got a pretty cool plan.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
Okay, so my plan is this check-bg. Actually, yeah, we'll have it at 100% just for consistency's sake. Scale y1, and then before it's going to be, or sorry, this is good. We don't care about that. We don't care about that either. So transition, transform, var duration, ease, whatever. Fix that later. Basically, at the start, we have transform scale 0.5. So it's going to be, that should be scale y. And so the idea is that it's half the height, and then when it's checked, it's double the height, if that makes sense. Oh, wait, but that looks dumb. But the effect's correct.
Yes.
All right, so I guess we just had to do that before. So we could, we could put that down there, and then we could just do check-bg before, transform scale y1, and it's still going to be off, but at least the concept's going to be there so that we could tweak it.
Yeah, so there's still that layering issue, which is what I was going to fix here. So moving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically doing the shadow is still before. Do all this down there. And then after will be our actual white background.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then this way, yeah. Yep, there we go. And that obscures the actual shadow that we're animating with the before element, and that gives us a little more flexibility there. Let's go transform origin. Center.
Yeah, so we just need to push that down. Push the before down. Or no. Transform origin, right?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So scale is probably not the right one to use either. So let's do translate.
Oh, so you want to use translate instead?
Y, yeah. Translate y0 and then translate y when it's checked.
Who knew that the shadow would be one of the more complicated parts of this?
Yeah, it's the subtleties that always Oh.
Right. And of course, there is a straightforward solution of just changing the box shadow, but that might cause some performance issues. So
yeah,
we might be prematurely optimizing at this phase, but it's just good practice.
so let's see. Let's
I can't see anything.
let's make this box shadow bigger. 1M, 5M. Getting rid of all your M's there. Translate Y, negative 50%. Oop.
We're gonna have to have an M versus viewport unit showdown.
One of these days, yeah. Translate Y. That might work. Translate Y 20%, perhaps. Let me see. Background black. Filter. Blur. Do it that way, and then back up here, we'll translate Y. Yeah. There we go.
So normally what you could do too is will change transform. But in this case, since you're already transforming it, it's already promoted to that layer. So
yeah.
So yeah, we had that pretty good. Now, okay, so here's the thing. When you push the button, it should scale down. And so that's going to be the, well, it's not really a button. It could be a button. Nah, let's not make it the button.
Well, it can still have the active pseudo-class,
right?
Can't it?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Unless it's a focusable element. Or maybe it can. Yeah, it's either on a link or a button or... Oh, wait, no, I'm kidding. April Fools. Active can apply to any element. And so I found that out from CSS Tricks. Thank you, CSS Tricks. And I literally scrolled down a little bit and it said it right there. Active can apply to any element. So we are good.
Are we?
And so what we're going to want to do for that is while it's active, just scale it down. So yeah. So let's just find active. Where are you?
I was trying it on the checkbox just to see, but I think it'll need to be on checker here.
It needs to be on the actual checker.
Yeah, so scale 0.5 just to check. Yeah, see, I don't know that. Tab index. Hey, thanks for following. Let me see.
So, well, hopefully this works. It's not. Is it working for you?
It is now that I added tab index.
Interesting. Okay. So when I when I look at the almanac on CSS Tricks, they have one example with an H2 tag. Now that H2 tag does not have a tab index or anything. So I wonder if it is a I don't know, only certain elements that it says active can apply to any elements, but I doubt that claim.
Let's see.
Unless you have tab index.
Well, I took it off, and it still seems to be working. I don't know why.
Just kidding. I retract my challenge.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know why
Can I do that? Okay, I'm doing that.
Okay. All right. So we're pretty much there. Let's go back and just compare real quick. One thing I did want to do, since we're going pretty fast on this, is is do a better transition on the actual check. It's one thing.
Yeah, so let's think through how we could do that. There's two ideas that I have. One of them sucks, one of them is complicated. So it's sort of a pick your poison. And you might have a third idea.
Okay.
Okay?
You go first.
So first of all, let's discuss our non-idea right now. Our non-idea, which we already have implemented, is using a cubic-bezier. And honestly, when you have that bouncy effect with the cubic-bezier, you are cheating. That's a hack. You are messing with the laws of cubic beziers. It just so happens that you get some sort of a bounce, but it's not a real bounce. It looks close to it, but it has a very hard ending, which just destroys this whole bounce illusion. Anyway, that's my opinion on the whole overshooting cubic beziers.
Yes.
So, two ideas. First idea is we use keyframes instead. We use an actual animation. Mm-hmm. So the problem with that would be, since animations have a set duration and like a plan, right? They have keyframes, they have to go from 0 to 100%. If you interrupt that anytime between that 0 to 100%, it's going to look weird. With transitions, you have it more... just more interruptible. And so maybe for simplicity's sake, we could try it with the keyframes first. And then we could look at an alternative technique. Let's do it with keyframes. What do you say?
For which animation?
For the check mark doing the bouncing.
The check mark doing the bouncing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Now, how are you wanting the check mark to bounce? Like a scale bounce?
Well, so we're only dealing with transform. Or are you talking about like the entire... So the button I'm actually happy with, it goes up and down, we're good.
That feels nice.
Right. The check mark though, it overshoots a little bit, and we want it to smoothly go back to its resting spot.
Right.
Okay, so let's see what element that is. That would be the check mark, right? Or checkbox. I'm getting so confused. No.
Check mark is the gray and green box. Yeah.
Definitely check mark. Okay, so let's go to our CSS, line 49 or line 50, one of those things. And so instead of this transform translate, what we're going to do is we're going to have an animation, what's going to call it? Check yes. I don't know. Their duration is whatever. We'll fix that ease, by the way. So it's keyframes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. So from transform translate x, x0.
Mm-hmm.
At 50%, we have transform translate x to, let's say, 1.7m, just for now. And then 100%, we have transform translate x. It goes back to 1.5m, right over there. And so we could have something similar for check no. So, but the problem is that animation will play. Oh man.
Yeah.
The animation's going to play immediately.
Yep. That's always the trick here that I can never find a workaround for.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that.
Yeah, I guess if you change the animation direction, then you could sort of trick it into being like, all right, I'm already at the state, so you don't need to animate me, something like that. I don't know. But I have another idea.
All right.
And it's an idea that we've actually used in a previous episode. The downside to this other idea is that we have, let's keep this transform. This idea has to do with nested elements. So you can probably see where I'm going here. Which actually, this is good. This SVG element, we could transform that. And so over here, we already have our nested elements, which is pretty nice, to be honest with you. So here's what we'll do. This check mark thing, we're going to translate it to, all right, first of all, let's fix the cubic-bezier. So we're just going to have this be an ease, just for now. And so let's see how that looks.
Not bad.
I have to refresh every time, but is it animating for you, or did I break something?
Yeah, it's still working.
All right, so right now it doesn't do any bouncy thing, which that's totally fine. I'm fine with it not doing a bouncy thing.
Yeah. So in the chat, real quick, we got a question. Why not use transition timing function? Well, we were using that, but it's very hard to get like an actual bounce or like an overshoot kind of animation with that. You certainly can.
Do you have that? Do you have the cubic-bezier website pulled up?
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at that. The curve again.
Yeah, I got it up.
And so we could see, do you see how there's such a sharp angle of attack going down?
Right.
There's no way to really fix that. There's no way to make the curve ease into the, ease into the end, that 100%. And so it becomes difficult to have that natural bouncing animation. So instead, what we're going to do is, right now I have the check mark just let's do this. Let's translate it to 1.7M. And so this SVG, we're going to transform, translate that to negative 0.2M. You see where I'm going here?
Let me get to where you're coding so they can follow.
Okay. And this is going to be calc_var duration times like 1.5. So it's going to take a little bit longer than the parent's transition. But what it's going to do is it's going to slowly move to the left as the parent is moving to the right at the same time. And because the durations are different, it's going to, I think, let me just visually see this before I say too much about it. So, yeah.
And right now the background is actually on the parent there, so that might present a problem.
Okay, do you see a little bouncing? Because I don't. I'm not getting the live updates.
It's okay. Let's see. Yeah, so the problem is the background is not on the SVG. Let me adjust a few things here real quick. Close that off. Transition. Transform. So we'll actually fade the path in, then change that down here to path opacity 1. And then move our background color to the SVG and background color here. And boop, boop. It's kind of working. SVG transition transform. Are you?
But you do see the little bounce, right?
Not really.
And we can magnify that effect. It's just unfortunate because I cannot see this live. It's Man, if you've ever done one of those coding in the dark type of challenges, this is exactly what it is.
Whiteboarding.
No. Have you ever done a coding in the dark challenge?
I have not. Are you
All right,
blindfolded?
neither have I. But I've heard about it and I've seen it. So all right, so I could see at least in Twitch that it's bouncing a little bit, and so we could definitely.
Oh yeah, it's very subtle.
Yeah, which we could make it more magnified, and so we could change that 1.7 to, let's say, 1.8, 1.9. Heck, we could even go up to 1.91. You know. Wow, we are getting somewhere here now.
And so I mean the default here should be transform translate x negative 0.4, and then the SVG should be like that. And then we'll move this down here. Wow, that's, yeah, there we go. Oop. Yep. It's a little bit better.
Nice. Yeah. So we definitely have that bounce now. And so you see how it feels more fluid? Also, because we're not using the keyframes, we have two benefits. Number one, we're not going to get what I call a rogue animation that starts at the very beginning of when you load this. Number two, we're going to get that interruptibility by default. And so if you click it really fast, it's going to do exactly what you want it to do, which is really nice.
Yes. Let me see. Looking for something real quick.
Cool.
I was gonna do one more.
So now one
little bonus here. You keep going.
Well, but we also forgot one thing. Okay, we forgot to add the so when it's active, we also want that drop shadow thing to we have to mess with the drop shadow more. We want it to
the active state,
yeah. So we want to shrink it a lot. And so right now we're using translate to do that. Or translate Y. So I guess we could just reuse that.
Yeah.
So instead of translate Y 50%, what we want? We want
it'd be translate Y 0. Because by default it's translated down 20%. So
so we could just go here, dot check bg b4, and then we could translate Y 0, and so we already have that. Yeah, man, I don't get the live updates. I'm gonna keep complaining about that.
Let's see. Yep, that kind of works. We need our specificity.
Did that work?
Yeah, we need our specificity to be a little bit higher. So let's move this all down. Are you done? Okay. Move this down. And that should override on the active state. No, maybe not. There we go. There we go.
And so one little lapse. dot checker. Oh boy.
Specificity.
So the box shadow thing, actually we could make this a lot simpler, because when it's checked, it shouldn't matter whether it's checked or not, because whether it's checked or not, the background shadow is going to be in the same place. So just add that there. When it's active, that's when the shadow changes.
Yeah,
so I
you're
just
right.
made that quick change.
Oh, not there. You got to add it to the before. There we go.
I'll add it wherever I please. I'm kidding.
Whoa, yeah, 50%'s a little too much. Scaling it down, or toning it back a little bit.
Some people like it spicy.
Yeah. All right, one more bonus animation. I'm gonna knock out real quick. Stroke dash array 90 90 stroke dash offset 90. Let me see if that is right.
So what are you adding right now?
So I'm gonna make our check mark actually check. So we'll do stroke dash offset that we want to animate. So strokes in SVG can be dashed, and you can do them stroke dash offset 0. You can actually.
So I guess that's one benefit. Yeah, that's one benefit to using SVG instead of trying to make this with pure CSS. Is that you could actually do that, and with the pure CSS approach, it would be a lot harder, of course, to get that cool stroke-like animation.
Yes, and I'm gonna make that actually a slower, or a quicker animation with a delay, so that it happens halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh yeah, we just want to calc that. And so you'll notice one thing that we're going to be doing more often is using CSS variables instead of Sass variables here. So what's cool too, something that you want to avoid in it, what happened to the bounce? Did I mess that up?
What bounce? It's still there.
Is it? Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. You are correct. Anyway, one thing you want to avoid is multiple different types of animations happening at the same time, because it loses your user's focus on where to pay attention with regard to the animation. And it's a very disconcerting sort of view. However, in this case, and I don't know if this is happenstance or if you planned it this way, but the stroke animation goes in the same direction as the actual check mark box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it works.
Right. It's leading your eye the same direction when you're checking and unchecking. So that's
and it's not superfluous. And so that's what we want to avoid, is those superfluous animations. Now, Dodeca in the chat noticed one more thing, and there's that we have another slight bounce on the actual box. We could add that. We could. But I think it would be a little bit too much.
Another slight bounce on the white box, like when it's coming back from the active?
Yeah. But honestly, I like the way it feels right now. It's very smooth. And also, this is one modification that we would make, because what you could also do is you could visualize this as being actual solid entities. And so the check mark is small, right? And so the button, the big white button, whatever you want to call it, is big. And so you could look at the white button as having a lot more momentum. And so it makes sense for the smaller one to bounce more and the bigger one to bounce less, right?
Because of the
and that actually goes to one of Disney's animation principles. Yes. So I mean, try, it's like I'm trying to come up with an analogy. You could probably come up with a better one, where bigger things bounce less, smaller things bounce more.
Yeah.
So
a ping pong ball versus a basketball, maybe. I don't know. Basketball bounces pretty well though. So
they both bounce a lot. Yeah.
In the chat, how come CSS vars over SCSS vars?
This is looking good.
If you don't change them elsewhere, is there any difference? The difference is the CSS variables can be adjusted.
So if you don't change them elsewhere,
go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, if you don't change them, of course, there's no difference. However, you will change them, so that's sort of a moot point. And the places that you might change them would be, say, the CSS dev tools, whether in Chrome or Firefox or not Safari. I mean, who uses? Just kidding. Yeah, either Chrome or Firefox has excellent dev tools, and Edge will get pretty good dev tools too, by the way, because they're gonna use Chromium, and I guess that comes with those dev tools. But anyway, CSS variables are also modificable, whatever that word is, via JavaScript. And so that allows you to do a lot of nice dynamic effects, which you can't do with SCSS variables. Because once SCSS variables are defined, that's the way they are forever. They are completely embedded into your CSS, and you can't really change them dynamically after the CSS is presented and rendered on the page. Hey, Mumbleboo, or Mumbleliu. Good to see you. Mumbleliu does some really, really cool CSS animation stuff too, by the way. So definitely check him out on Twitter or CodePen or wherever else he lives.
Yes.
But yeah, I highly recommend checking out CSS variables.
Yeah, they're going to become more and more useful as browser support just continues to improve, and as people find even more creative uses for them. Well, what do you think? Should we move this into a quick Keyflections? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I put a link to one of my presentations I gave about reactive CSS variables if you're interested, and this was at CSS Conf Europe.
Yes.
So
definitely worth
just a shameless plug, but yeah. But yeah, let's go to Keyflections.
All right, we're moving into the part of the show known as Keyflections. We'll give a quick review of the techniques used to build this animations. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the chat or leave a comment down below. We'll be happy to answer.
By the way, if you've enjoyed watching us so far, you could also follow and subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube, or you could pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. The financial contributions go towards Shaw actually having good internet, because
one of these days.
Just kidding.
Yes. Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, anyways, we're doing this animation Checkbox Switcher by Oleg Frolov, we think. That's just a nice little simple interaction, kind of combining multiple techniques or multiple visual metaphors for a checkbox of like the slider and the check mark. So our HTML is pretty straightforward. We have a label for the wrapped around an input type of checkbox. And so what that does is anything within this label automatically becomes a click handler for the input. So we've got the wrapper label, we've got the input type equals checkbox, we've got check-bg and a check mark. Check-bg is the white background and the box shadow due to how that needs to be animated. And then the check mark is the actual box here with the check mark that comes in. So first things first, we've got our checker set up there. Nothing major. The check mark is a square, transition, transform, and then you'll notice right off the bat it's translated off to the left, but it's still aligned correctly. That's because the SVG is actually what has the background color there, and it's translated over the opposite amount. And we did this to aid with that bounce animation. So you'll see that the duration here on the SVG is longer than the transition on the check mark. So it's taking longer to get back into that place, giving it that kind of overshoot feel. And you can see the same thing happening down here, where we translate it over 1.9 and then translate it back -4. And that's how that works. What would you like to review, David?
Well, we could review our our crazy shadow thing that we did.
Yes. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So, in order to make this as performant as possible, we have a pseudo elements that has a shadow, and instead of actually changing the properties of the shadow, such as the X, the Y, the blur, the spread, any of that, instead we are changing the transform. And so we are modifying translate Y, and you could just envision this as a shadow that moves up or down depending on where it's pressed. And so because we already have that blurry shadowiness rendered already, we could just transition on transform, whether it's active or not. So on active, you could see it goes up, and then when it's not active, it just goes to its resting spot, which is right here, nice and shadowy.
That's right. And we use the filter blur there out of necessity. The box shadow just wasn't playing right. One of the issues with box shadow is it starts from outside of the element, unless you're using box shadow inset, but it gives like a really hard edge that even if you match like a background color of the same exact color, it's still not gonna look quite right because it's already blurring. So we just ended up using a solid background color and the blur there.
Right.
And then the only last thing of the actual checking animation, that's just a path in SVG we've got set up right here. And then we've got a stroke dash array and a stroke dash offset, which is transitioning. Stroke dash array determines how many, it determines how big of a gap and how big of a line there is in the stroke. So if I change this real quick to, let's say 9.9, you'd be able to see some kind of gaps there in the stroke. 1.1 is probably more accurate here. And that'll give you like a dashed line effect, which is great. If CodePen would update here. But anyway, by doing 90-90, that gives us an equal gap of the empty path plus an equal length of the full path. And the stroke dash offset pushes that off, so you're only viewing the empty spot at first, and then stroke dash offset down here to 0 animates the line in just like that. And
right,
that's about it.
Now I want to take a quick moment to talk about the JavaScript. All right, I'm done.
That was helpful. Thank you. Well, yeah, I think that's about all we have here for this one.
Anytime.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start my outro. David, as soon as I reach like the last sentence, just start talking because of the latency issues. You've been watching Keyframers. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us. You can subscribe and participate in the live streams every week here on Twitch. You can also like and subscribe at youtube.com/keyframers. And don't forget to pledge at patreon.com/keyframers to support us as we go.
Yeah, and we do accept submissions for future episodes, so you could DM me, DM Shaw, or tweet at Keyframers with any animations that you would like to see made. We've already had a couple challenges come through, so you might see those on future episodes. So thank you for sending those in. You could also present questions or challenges to us that we'll try to answer on the air, like why Shaw uses M's. That's a very valid question that you could ask. Or why I use position relative for everything. I mean, fair.
Yes.
And also, again, be sure to share this video and share the demo when it comes out across your social platforms.
And that's all we have for now. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We're excited to be back for season 2, and we look forward to seeing y'all each week. Until next time, adios, amigos.